Valentine's Dog, a short story. Sitting on the floor of his bedroom, Steele erases and rewrites the beginning to his letter over and over again. He has no idea why he let his older brother convince him that this was a good idea. Yet, here he was, trying to write his 7th or 8th letter attempt to the girl he liked. In all honesty, he's lost track of how many times he's tried to write something not horribly cheesy. If it wasn't for the fact that Steele has a ridiculous value to never break a promise, he would have thrown away his horrible letter attempts into the fire and given this up long ago. Of course, though, his brother knew this about him and purposely made him promise that he would finish this and not give up like he has done countless times before. Since it was getting close to Valentine's Day, the plan was for Steele to write a vague letter to his friend Pepper, asking her whether or not she wanted to meet up with him, go to the ice rink by the Mall of America in They were having a light show that Saturday, so his brother insisted that it would be a good idea to bring her to it, since it was a nice day for the holidays, not extremely cliché. In all honesty, Steele thought it was an extremely cheesy idea, but he knew it wasn't horrible because after the light show, they could bring Pepper to the food court in the mall to warm up and get something to eat. It wasn't the most glamorous spot for dinner, but he was a broke high school student, so that's the most he could probably do. Shaking his head, Steele scolded himself. He's thinking too far ahead because he doesn't even know if Pepper will even say yes yet. Sighing, Steele bangs his head against the wall of his room, wincing slightly as pain starts to throb in the back of his head. He really didn't want to screw this up. If this was just some random girl from school his brother told him to ask out, he could do this easily. Sure, if she rejected him, it would be embarrassing and all, but he would most likely never talk to her again. And even if he did talk to her again in the future, Steele was pretty good at acting confident in front of strangers. Pepper, of course, wasn't just any stranger, though. She was one of his closest friends. They weren't childhood friends or anything like that, but she was still super important to Steele. 2 years ago, when Steele moved into town when his mom got a job at the local hospital, Pepper was one of the first people to reach out to him when he had no one to talk to. They got really close as friends, and Steele honestly had no romantic feelings for her until recently. She almost moved away, and Steele realized how terrifying the idea of Pepper leaving him felt. His brother, Simon, saw this, since he was the second closest person next to Pepper who could read him like a book. Knowing how much Steele liked Pepper, he decided to trick Steele into asking her out. It was actually a lot easier to do than Simon anticipated. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing when he and Steele were playing a video game together, and Steele challenged Simon to a one-on-one match, and said that if he won, Simon had to take him to the college campus to meet his fiancée. Being reminded of his future wife, Simon thought about how much Steele liked Pepper and agreed to the challenge only if Steele asked Pepper out if he won instead. In the end, Simon obviously won, and now here was Steele, sitting on his bedroom floor, papers thrown about the room, and Simon standing smugly in the doorway. Still haven't finished that letter yet, Simon teases, only to get the response of Steele groaning in annoyance as he hides his head in his hands. Kicking one of the crumpled up pieces of paper on the ground, Simon wanders his way over to where Steele is sitting while saying, "It can't be that bad. You have to have something worthwhile in this mess you've created." Poking his head out from behind his hands, Steele glares at his brother while grumbling, "You suck, you know that, right?" "Aw, I always knew you loved me," Simon sasses as he plops down on his brother's bed and kicks Steele's leg with his foot while adding, "Tell me what you've got so far, and I'll help you speed up this painfully funny torture I'm putting you through." Throwing his nearly empty letter at Simon's head, Steele threatens, "If you make me lose my closest friend, I'm not coming to your wedding." Rolling his eyes, Simon ignores Steele's comment and starts to read what little work his brother has yet to produce. While reading, Simon stops for a second and just stares at Steele with a disappointed look. "What?" Steele snaps once he notices Simon staring at him. "Did you seriously write? Would it be cheesy if I said I couldn't help but admire your beauty when we met?" Simon questions. "I mean, come on, bro. You only recently realized you liked her." Rumbling into his chest, Steele remarks back, "Doesn't mean that I didn't think she was pretty." "God, you're hopeless, aren't you?" Simon teases before going to comfort. "Come on, get off the floor and I'll help you try and fix this mess of a letter." Sighing and grumbling, Steele pulls himself off of his floor before sitting next to Simon and asking, "So, what do I need to do, oh great matchmaker?" Shoving Steele's shoulder, Simon bites back. "Watch it, you. I'm the one who's getting married soon, so take notes." "Wasn't Sarah the one who actually proposed in the end?" Steele retorts back after rolling his eyes. "Do you want my help or not?" Simon says, smacking the unfinished letter on Steele's head. 45 painstakingly long minutes later, Simon and Steele are able to write a semi-passable letter that doesn't make Steele want to die of embarrassment. Sorta. It's still pretty embarrassing. Sighing and running his hands through his hair, Steele tiredly mumbles, "Thank God that is over. Now all you have to do is figure out how you're actually going to give the letter to her," Simon adds, standing up from his spot on the bed, stretching his back from sitting for so long. A look of complete horror spreads across Steele's face, him suddenly remembering he has yet to even think about how he is going to give this to Pepper. Seeing his brother's horrified expression, Simon breaks out in laughter, and is about to tease his brother, but is interrupted when a giant husky comes running into the room, jumping up onto Steele's bed. Distracted for a brief second by their dog charging into the room, Steele tries to jump off of his bed as his dog tackles him down, licking his face. "Oh God, no, Gigi, off!" Steele yelps, shoving his furry gray friend away from him. After finally managing to push Gigi off of him so he can breathe, Steele wipes the dog slobber that's now all over his face while gagging out, "Ugh! Reminding me to do something about Gigi's death." Rolling his eyes at Steele's comment, Simon ruffles Gigi's fur while calling him out. "Maybe you should stop moping so much so Gigi doesn't try and come rescue you." "I'm not moping," Steele exclaims, trying to defend himself. Simon looks at Steele and simply raises an eyebrow at him before laughing as Steele haphazardly throws a pillow at his head. 1 week later, with Valentine's Day in less than 4 days, Simon is sitting on the kitchen counter eating an apple while grilling Steele to give Pepper the letter they had written. All the while, Steele tries his best to ignore him while working on baking banana muffins for his school's Valentine's bake sale. "If you don't hurry soon, she'll probably get asked out by someone else if she hasn't already," Simon pushes while watching Steele move around the kitchen, pulling out mixing bowls and tin pans. Ignoring Simon's comments, Steele chops up a bunch of bananas while throwing them into one of the mixing bowls to mash up later. Taking another bite of his apple, Simon stares at Steele as he continues to chop bananas silently, before purposely asking, "Are you about to break your promise, Steele?" Pausing mid-chop, Steele glares at his older brother before he sees him reach into his mixing bowl to eat one of his banana slices. Sharply smacking his brother's hand away from the bananas, Steele remarks back while moving his bowl to the other side of him, "Eat your apple. I need those bananas." Kicking the back of his brother's leg, Simon adds to Steele's comment, "Yeah, 'cause you promised your girlfriend you'd help her with that school bake sale, right?" Refusing to look at Simon, Steele shakes his head before going back to cutting up bananas while answering Simon's questions. "Yeah, and she's not my girlfriend. And I don't break promises." Raising his hands in the air, Simon surrenders. All right, low blow on my part." "So you'll leave it alone, then?" Steele warily asks while side-eyeing his brother. Fine, Simon sighs out before quickly trying to grab another piece of banana and getting smacked by his brother. After sitting in silence for about another 10 minutes, Simon hops off the kitchen counter and makes his way to his bedroom, while Steele puts a batch of muffins into the oven. Just as Simon is about to leave the room, Gigi walks in, trotting over to Steele, silently asking for a treat. As Steele smiles softly at his dog and feeds her a small piece of banana, Simon shouts, "That's it!" Startling Steele with his brother's sudden outburst, he drops the piece of banana that he was going to feed Gigi on the floor, which she hurriedly scarfs up. "What the heck was that?" Steele exclaims, shaking off the initial shock from Simon's loud revelation. Turning to face Gigi and Steele, Simon waves his hands in the air in the direction of Gigi, while also yelling, "Gigi!" Looking up at her owners, Gigi tilts her head in curiosity when she hears her name called. Glancing down at his dog real quick before looking back at his brother, still very confused, Steele questions again. "Yeah, what about her?" "I know how you're going to ask Pepper out," Simon excitedly announces, bouncing on the edges of his heels. Groaning into the palms of his hands, Steele rubs his eyes while sighing. I thought you said you'd leave that alone. I know, I did say that. But hear me out, Simon defends, as Steele moves on to take out the first batch of muffins from the oven once it starts beeping as the timer goes off. What is it? Steele groans out, carefully shutting the oven door with one hand as he places the muffins on the stove with the other. Taking in a quick breath, Simon goes on to answer Steele's questions excitedly. Gigi will deliver the letter for you. Unable to hide a hint of curiosity at his brother's suggestion, Steele leans against the counter, avoiding getting burned by the hot tin pan. Tilting his head to the side with a tired look on his face, Steele continues to question his brother. And how do you plan to do that? All right, I know this idea seems a little far-fetched, Simon starts, holding back a smile as Steele groans in distaste at his half-assed pun. But think about it. Pepper loves Gigi, and Gigi loves Pepper. Yeah, that little stink almost loves Pepper more than me, Steele adds, rolling his eyes. Exactly, Simon goes on to explain. So, what if we tie your letter around Gigi's neck? Then you start to walk her down to Pepper's house and let her go the rest of the way on her own. Since Gigi always sprints to Pepper's house when she knows where we are going, we don't have to worry about her getting lost. Remaining silent for a minute, Steele thinks about his crazy and probably stupid plan his brother came up with. On the one hand, this is a great way to get his letter to Pepper without actually confronting her. And Simon's right about Pepper loving Gigi, so it might actually make her a little more likely to say yes to Steele's embarrassing plea. On the other hand, this was so flippin' corny he wouldn't be surprised if this idea was written in a teenage girl's love story. On top of that, who even knows if Gigi will actually listen to them and not completely let their plan fall apart? Staying silent for a couple more seconds before finally responding to Simon's spur-of-the-moment plan, Steele relents in an exhausted voice. You know what? Fine. I don't know whether I'm just as crazy or as stupid as you, but you'll probably make me do it anyway. Simon pumps his fist in the air in a silent victory motion before Steele cuts in. But you have to at least let me finish these muffins first. There is no way Pepper will go out with me if I forget to finish these because I was trying to ask her out. Deal, Simon quickly agrees. A little over an hour later, Steele finishes baking his treats for school and packages them up in the sickeningly bright pink cardboard boxes his school gave him. Washing his hands in the sink and then wiping the flour and sugar off of his sweatshirt, Steele looks up at his brother, who stares at him with expectant eyes. You couldn't just give me 5 more minutes? Steele sighs, shaking his head. Nope, Simon answers, popping his mouth at the pea. I already gave you over an hour. Now let's move it, slowpoke. Rolling his eyes, Steele follows Simon to the front hallway, where Gigi is sitting patiently with a black ribbon tied around her neck. Steele then moves to grab his coat from the front closet since it was pretty chilly outside from the winter season, even though there was no snow on the ground. After throwing on his jacket, Steele looks at his brother, waiting for him to grab his coat as well. When his brother doesn't go to grab his jacket and instead adjusts the knots that are tied around 2 holes in the letter that Gigi is holding, Simon clears his throat and asks, Aren't you coming? Looking up from where Simon was kneeling on the ground, he answers, shaking his head. Nope, I'm not. What? Steele quickly responds, both slightly shocked and confused. I already helped you with writing your letter and getting Gigi ready for her mission, Simon explains to his brother. Well, there wasn't really that much to do to get Gigi ready for, so I don't know what you're talking about, Steele snarks, hiding a smile as his brother's expression changes to look offended. Hey, I did plenty to help, Simon exclaims, keeping up his mock-offended act. And anyways, it's way too cold outside for me to walk to Pepper's house with you. Freeze, baby, Steele coughs out into his arm. Punching his brother's shoulder at his comments, Simon retorts back, Whatever, lover boy. Just hurry up and go ask out your girlfriend so I can stop watching that cheesy, lovesick look you get whenever she comes over. Wincing as the cold wind hits his face from Simon opening the front door to the driveway, Steele calls out behind him, his voice muffled from his jacket zipped up to his mouth. She's not my girlfriend. After walking down the street for about 5 minutes in silence, with his hands tucked deeply in his pockets, Steele looks down to his left to watch Gigi as she trots happily next to him. I don't know how you can stand being out in this cold when there's not even any snow on the ground, Steele mutters into his coat as the cold wind blows their way. Looking up at her owner when she hears him talking, she lets out a happy bark, just happy to be outside on a walk. Shaking his head before pulling his face out of his coat once the wind stops, Steele says more clearly, "Well, I guess you have all that fur to keep you warm." Walking down the street for a little longer, with only the sound of the wind that would blow by them whistling in their ears, Steele and Gigi turn left at the next fork in the road. "All right, Gigi," Steele starts. "You know where Pepper's house is, so I don't think you need me to go any further." Before he can finish his train of thought, Gigi recognizes where they're going and starts to sprint to Pepper's house, not bothering to wait to see if Steele is following her. "Welp," Steele states, shaking his head. "Never mind." From his spot on the sidewalk, Steele can see Gigi scratching at the door of his friend's house. Once someone finally goes to open the door, Steele panics. Pepper will definitely see him from where he is standing looking like a buffoon. Completely ignoring the thought about how creepy it would be if someone saw this, Steele jumped behind his neighbor's bushes that were blocked by a white fence. Heart pounding in his chest and blood flowing from adrenaline keeping him warm, Steele watches Gigi and Pepper from a hole in the fence. Pepper bends down to pet Gigi while also rubbing her arms, trying to keep warm from the chill in the air. Holding his breath in anticipation, Steele sees Pepper tuck her strawberry blonde hair behind her ear and grab the letter that was wrapped around Gigi's neck when she finally notices it. Feeling as if he could hear his heartbeat in his ears, Steele tries his best to stay still and not fidget from anxiety as Pepper opens his letter and reads it with an expression that he can't make out from where he is hiding. Pepper looks up and down the direction that he was in. Steele feels his entire body go still when it feels as if Pepper is looking right at him. Letting out a shaky breath of relief when Pepper finally stops looking at him for what feels like forever, Steele's body starts to shiver from his anxiety and the cold as his adrenaline starts to die down. Watching with curiosity as Pepper heads back inside her house, bringing Gigi with her, Steele starts to feel his body grow tired as his adrenaline fades more and more. Looking down at his feet from where he was crouching in the dry brown grass, Steele wonders what he should do next. He didn't really think this far. Is he supposed to wait here and see if Pepper is going to let Gigi back out? Is he supposed to go knock on the door and go get Gigi? He honestly has no idea. And the more and more Steele stays crouched down in his neighbor's yard, the more and more cold he gets, and seriously thinks about walking back home without Gigi. He knew she'd be fine at Pepper's house for a while until he built up the courage to go and retrieve her. The main thing stopping Steele, though, was he was worried he would be seen if he came out of the bushes to go back home. Before Steele could overthink anything any longer, he was pulled from his thoughts when Pepper came back outside again 5 minutes later. This time with a light blue coat covering her dark blue sweater. As if his breath was pulled from his mouth, Steele waits, frozen in place, as Pepper now ties a new letter around Gigi's neck before giving her a small dog biscuit and sending her back to Steele. Heart dropping in his chest, Steele watches as Gigi starts to trot back over to Steele with a biscuit sitting happily in her mouth. Before Steele could even try and think about what to do to divert Gigi from giving away his spot, Pepper calls out, "I know you're there, Steele." So she did see me, Steele thinks to himself as he slowly stands up from his hiding spot, waving awkwardly back at Pepper. Laughing out loud, not even trying to hide her snort when she sees Steele standing uncomfortably in her neighbor's yard, Pepper shakes her head. "I responded to your letter," Pepper calls out one more time, gesturing at Gigi, who was now standing at Steele's side, before heading back inside to the warmth of her house. Smiling at his friend's unbelievable confidence in herself, Steele looks down at Gigi and feels his stomach flip, because he now stares at the new black letter with a white heart stamp that was glaring at him from Gigi's neck. Hands shaking from both nerves and the cold, Steele pulls Pepper's letter off of Gigi's neck. Standing completely still, with his feet planted to the ground, Steele reads Pepper's response with bated breath. "You do know that you're a dork, right? I'm guessing your brother put you up to finally asking me out. Took you long enough. Give me some dark chocolate and I'll see you at your house with my ice skates. P.S. Don't buy me roses. I'm allergic. Also, you better not have forgotten to bake those muffins for school because you were trying to ask me out." Letting a huge, goofy smile spread across his face at his friend's sassy response, Steele looks down at his dog, laughing with joy, seeing Gigi's tail wag in excitement. Turning back to his house, Steele starts to sprint home with Gigi running next to him in large strides, gliding through the air. Running through the neighborhood, Steele hurries to get home as fast as he can to show his brother Pepper's response, not even caring about the "I told you so" he was about to get. And in the rush of excitement, Steele didn't even notice as the sky started to sprinkle down soft flakes of snow onto the ground.